Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and this is going to be my 8.0 Destruction Warlock DPS guide. In it, I will be covering optimal talent configurations for both Mythic Plus as well as Uldir, rotations, Azerite Traits, pet usage, and a few other things along the way. I have a link to my Discord and Twitch channel in the description below, where you can acquire any of the weak ores you see here if you're interested in doing so. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Now, as far as talent choices go for Uldir in the vast majority of single target based encounters, this is the build that pretty much every Destruction Warlock has been running. The build of Flashover, Reverse Entropy, Cataclysm, Grimoire of Supremacy, and Dark Soul Instability provides the most single target damage, as well as a bit of play when it comes to two target cleave situations, and it's just been the strongest build for pretty much all of Uldir across Heroic and Mythic. Taking a look at the talents in the level 15 row for Destruction, we have the option of Flashover, Eradication, or Soulfire. And the winner here is Flashover. It's a passive and since Conflagrate deals 25% increased damage and grants you an additional charge of Backdraft, which is obviously really powerful. It is worth mentioning that Eradication does gain a decent bit more value on two target encounters, and Soulfire is relatively close to Flashover in this first row here, but the clear-cut winner is Flashover. In the level 30 row here, we have the choices of Reverse Entropy, Internal Combustion, and Shadowburn. While I am happy to see Shadowburn back in BFA, it's unfortunately a talent and realistically doesn't have very many applications when it comes to raid encounters or things of the sort, even in Mythic Plus. Between Internal Combustion and Reverse Entropy here, once again, the clear winner is Reverse Entropy in the vast majority of situations. Having a chance to grant you basically a mini Bloodlust for 8 seconds is really strong. And also there's the fact that Internal Combustion is just not really a fun playstyle, and it's relatively hard to maintain the optimal immolate uptime with Chaos Bolts consuming charges or seconds of it every time you cast a Chaos Bolt. Now, taking a look at the talents we have available in the level 60 row, the options we have are Cataclysm, Fire and Brimstone, and Inferno here. And following suit with the level 30 and 15 row, the clear-cut winner once again here is Cataclysm, both in AoE situations as well as pure single target. The reason being, Fire and Brimstone unfortunately is a bit undertuned right now, with it dealing 40% damage to the surrounding mobs around your main target here, even when you factor in the additional shard generation. And Inferno is just basically dumpster fire. It is an Inferno. It's just, it's not where it needs to be, and realistically, with Cataclysm being both a single target gain when you look at Mythic Plus or even raid encounters, in addition to being a really strong burst cooldown you have every 30 seconds for AoE based situations, Cataclysm is the clear-cut winner here. Now, as far as the available talents go in our level 90 row, we have the option of Roaring Blaze, Grimoire of Supremacy, and Grimoire of Sacrifice here. Now, I did want to mention here that Grimoire of Sacrifice is a bit different than it was in Legion. In BFA, we once again have the actual Command Demon ability bound to us once again when we sacrifice our pet, which is not the case or how it was in Legion. Having that actually being bound to us is pretty powerful. Having the actual spell lock bound to your character is much better than having it bound to your Fell Hunter when you're supposed to be interrupting a specific target and it's off actually attacking a random totem or a mob in some other place. So that's pretty nice to have around. Grimoire Supremacy is a passive, and it says when you have your Infernal active, basically whenever you summon your Infernal, every soul shard you spend increases the damage of a Chaos Bolt by 8%. Obviously, stacking with this with something like Dark Soul Instability and other cooldowns makes the actual Infernal cooldown exceptionally powerful. And the final option here we have is Roaring Blaze. It's a passive, and so it's Conflagrate burn to target for an additional 3,200 or so damage over 6 seconds. The thing here, and one thing I wanted to mention as well, is that Roaring Blaze does not stack. Basically, you can't, you can cast two Conflagrates back to back, but the actual dot it puts up will not stack. It won't deal 6,500 DPS. It'll still deal 3,200 DPS over 6 seconds. If you actually clip one, it'll deal, say, 800, and then the remaining 3,200 from the one you actually clipped. So, with that interaction not really being a thing, it makes the talent much less appealing, which means that Grimoire Supremacy is once again the clear-cut winner here as well. Taking a look at the talents we have available to us in the level 100 row, the first talent here we have is Soul Conduit, and it's the same across every Warlock spec. It's pretty much undertuned across every Warlock spec. It's a passive and says every soul shard you spend has a 15% chance to be refunded. Realistically, it's not too strong, and it's not nearly as strong as Channel Demon Fire and Dark Soul Instability. Channel Demon Fire is on a 22 or so second cooldown. It launches 15 bolts of Fell Fire over 2.5 seconds roughly at random targets afflicted by your immolate within 40 yards. Each bolt deals 941 fire damage to the main target and 412 fire damage to enemy targets or nearby enemies. So this makes it exceptionally strong in 2 or 3 target stat cleave or Mythic Plus pack or trash pulls and things of the sort. The main talent here we're going to be using actually for Uldir based fights and the vast majority of single target based encounters, however, is Dark Soul Instability. It's an instant on a 2-minute cooldown, and it says it infuses your soul with unstable power, increasing your critical strike chance by 30% for 20 seconds. Now, the main thing here is that Chaos Bolt has a 100% chance to crit, and its damage actually scales off of your critical strike rating. So this is effectively a flat damage increase to Chaos Bolt, and when you stack it with things like Grimoire Supremacy or the Azerite Trait Crashing Chaos, Dark Soul Instability becomes exceptionally powerful for single target based encounters. Now, as far as Destruction single target based opener goes, there's really not a whole lot to it here besides the actual usage of your initial cooldowns and things of the sort. So with about 2.5 seconds before the boss is pulled, we're going to start pre-casting Incinerate here. And right when the boss is pulled, we're going to cast Cataclysm right into Summon Infernal, into 2 Conflagrates, Berserking if you have it, Dark Soul Instability, and start launching Chaos Bolts here. As you can see, obviously, we're generating our very last shard there right when we launch our Chaos Bolt here, so we're being sure not to overcap on shards. And really, it's just a priority system here. You want to maintain your immolate, obviously, which is flowing right now, so we're going to refresh it right now. And just keep launching your Chaos Bolts here. And as you can see, we have about 8 or so seconds left until Cataclysm's back off of cooldown. So we're going to plan on refreshing this immolate with Cataclysm here. You can catch every other immolate refresh with Cataclysm. So that's really what you want to do, because as I mentioned before, Cataclysm is a single target DPS gain. So we're going to do it right here. Besides that, it's really just a priority system outside of, you know, having your Dark Soul Instability coming off of cooldown or your Infernal coming off of cooldown as well. You want to pull shards, obviously, a little bit before Dark Soul Instability is off of cooldown. And as far as your actual Infernal usage goes, it's pretty much on cooldown, especially because it generates soul shards for you. You don't really have to pool nearly as much as you do, you know, say when Dark Soul Instability is coming off cooldown. One thing I should mention, though, obviously, is that you're only going to get one more Dark Soul Instability and one more Summon Infernal during, like, I guess, actual any encounter. You want to save them to use them in conjunction with themselves. That's where you'll gain the most actual DPS. Now, taking a look at Mythic Plus based talents as Destruction, you're going to notice pretty quickly here that, honestly, there's not a whole lot that changes from our single target Uldir base build and our actual Mythic Plus build here. In the level 15 row, once again, we have the choice of Flashover, Eradication, and Soulfire, and Flashover is even more powerful here, as having a second charge of Backdraft is even more important in Mythic Plus, and having Conflagrate deal 25% increased damage is even more powerful, I should say, when having Havoc up a larger portion of the time than you would on single target based encounters. In the level 30 row, we have the option of Reverse Entropy, Internal Combustion, and Shadow Burn. I actually thought initially heading into into BFA, that Shadow Burn might have a bit of play in Mythic Plus. I was really hoping it would. Unfortunately, once again, Reverse Entropy's mini Heroism, mini Bloodlust, depending on your faction, is still just too strong. And Internal Combustion's playstyle is even harder to maintain in Mythic Plus, and it's really not even worthwhile on single target based encounters anyways. In the level 60 row, once again, we have the options of Inferno, Fire and Brimstone, and Cataclysm. As I mentioned before, Cataclysm is an actual single target DPS gain. You cast it whenever you want to cast Immolate on pure single target encounters. And obviously, it's a very strong, pretty high damage base ability for Mythic Plus. Having the option of going Cataclysm in the Channel Demon Fire right into a Havoc window, launching 2 or 3 Chaos Bolts, makes Cataclysm exceptionally powerful and is the main reason as to why Destruction Warlocks can burst so high on low to mid tier Mythic Plus keys. Taking a look at the talents we have available to us in the level 90 row of Destruction, we have the option of Roaring Blaze, Grimoire of Supremacy, or Grimoire of Sacrifice here. I was running Grimoire of Sacrifice, I will admit, when BFA actually launched on live servers for a little while, as obviously having the Command Demon ability, as I mentioned before, bound to your character is really strong, with interrupts being even more of a thing in Mythic Plus. You do lose a bit of utility when not having your actual pet out, but the main thing I found when testing in Grimoire Supremacy is that it offers a tremendous amount of burst damage on trash packs, whether you're focusing down a priority mob, or just feeding rainfires on larger trash packs, while also offering a tremendous amount of burst damage on bosses, whether it's in a tyrannical or fortified setting. You really gain a whole lot from Grimoire Supremacy regardless. As I mentioned before in the single target based talent video, or section of this video I should say, Roaring Blaze does suffer from not stacking, and obviously, you know, you're going to be typically using 1 or 2 Conflagrates when you actually have Havoc up to feed those hasted Chaos Bolts. You really lose a whole lot from clipping your Roaring Blaze buffs on 1 target, let alone 2 targets once or twice, which really makes Grimoire Supremacy the go-to talent for Mythic Plus in my opinion, in the level 90 row. Now, taking a look at the talents we have available in our level 100 row for Destruction, as I mentioned when we were talking about single target damage, we have the option of Soul Conduit, but realistically it's really undertuned, so it's actually not really an option at all right now. Realistically, the only 2 options we have are Channel Demon Fire or Dark Soul Instability. Channel Demon Fire enables the Cataclysm and the Channel Demon Fire sequencing, which obviously can feed a very large Havoc window after that as well in Mythic Plus, making it an exceptionally strong choice for Mythic Plus. Realistically, if you sim Channel Demon Fire against Dark Soul instability in a pure single target sim, you really don't lose a whole lot of DPS taking Demon Fire over Dark Soul, and Demon Fire gives you a whole lot more cleave and AoE based damage in Mythic Plus, which is obviously a pretty big thing because trash is the biggest part of Mythic Plus. As I mentioned, Dark Soul instability is, a really strong single target based talent, so there might have some play in some tyrannical keys if destruction becomes a different thing later on in the expansion, but realistically your choice here for Mythic Plus is going to be Channel Demon Fire 99.9% of the time. Now as far as our actual AoE opener goes to Mythic Plus and other things of the sort, what we're really going to do here is say that Infernal's off cooldown and we're heading into a trash pack of 4 mobs, which we have here in these 4 training dummies. We're basically going to open right on Cataclysm into Summon Infernal, and then right into Channel Demon Fire here. We have a lot of shard generating from our Infernal here. Right after the Demon Fire is over, we're going to go into Havoc, Conflagrate, and we're going to launch 2 Chaos Bolts here into another Conflagrate, and launch a 3rd Chaos Bolt here. And realistically at this point our Immolate should be dropping, so I'm going to refresh a few here, and put up a Rain of Fire as well, as we have 4 targets here. And we have, as we can see here, we have Demon Fire off of CD again. We're going to launch another Demon Fire here, throw in a Conflagrate, launch a Chaos Bolt so we don't cap on shards. As you can see right here, we have Cataclysm coming off of CD, which is right around Immolate's Pandemic window starting on our targets as well. So we're going to reapply Cataclysm here, reapply Havoc, toss another Conflagrate, and then launch, it should be 3 Chaos Bolts here. Yeah, it'll be 3 Chaos Bolts here. Right into another Channel Demon Fire. So Destruction does have a whole lot of play when it comes to Mythic Plus and trash. The thing is, when you compare it to actual Affliction, Affliction will do more damage on higher keys when Agony has a chance to ramp up to 10, 15 stacks, depending on what talent you're using. When it comes to like Mythic Zeros or low to mid tier keys, Destruction's damage is going to be much better than Affliction's will. Now I did want to touch here briefly on Rain of Fire usage. Just every time I put out a Destruction video, I get a good bit of questions saying, hey, when do I use Rain of Fire? When should Rain of Fire be used? Do we use it with Havoc? How many mobs do we need to hit? And things of the sort. So realistically here, we're going to open the same way here. And we're going to actually pretend that there's 5 training dummies here and not 4, even though, there is 4. So we're going to open right here on Cataclysm into Channel Demon Fire here. And I should drop my Infernal as well. And realistically, we're going to go right into Rain of Fire if there's 5 targets here. Actually, foregoing our Havoc window. We're not even going to use it here. As you can see with our Infernal down, we're back at 3 shards. We're going to drop Rain of Fires here. It is worth mentioning, Rain of Fire does stack. As you can see, we're back at 3 shards. Here again, we're going to drop one more. Put up a few Immolates here before we go back into our Demon Fire right here. Into our Demon Fire, and then we can put up another Rain of Fire here. As you can see, it does a pretty decent portion of our damage outside of our actual Infernal's Immolation aura here. I did want to mention, like I said, Rain of Fire does stack, so you can cast multiples at once. And the main rule here, what you want to follow is, if there's 5 or more targets, you basically want to just go Cataclysm into Channel Demon Fire. Obviously, if your Infernal's out, use it. It helps with shard generation, as well as you can see, it's Infernal, the actual Immolation aura, is really strong as well. If there's 5 or more targets, you forego casting Havoc. You don't even use Havoc, you forego your Havoc window, as long as you're going to be able to cast Rain of Fire, and it will take for most of its duration. If there's 3 or more mobs, you also want to cast Rain of Fire, but you want to actually use your Havoc window and only use Havoc, and only cast Rain of Fire outside of Havoc when it's on cooldown, as well as when Channel Demon Fire and Cataclysm are on cooldown. As far as pets go in Mythic Plus and raid encounters, pet damage has been normalized in BFA, but each pet does bring a unique ability or 2 with it. Your Imp brings a 5% stamina buff for you, and it's the best pet at target swapping due to the fact that it actually casts spells from range. Our Voidwalker has finally shed his tanking chains in a sense, and is our only pet with an AoE based ability. So if you don't need an Interrupt or a Purge, the Voidwalker should be your go-to for Mythic Plus trash. And finally, our Fell Hunter brings both a Purge and an Interrupt with it, making it a great choice for Mythic Plus and encounters where you will need either. Now as far as actual Azerite traits go for Destruction, there are a few you should be looking for single target based encounters, and then a few you'll be using more so in Mythic Plus. Both Crashing Chaos and Chaotic Inferno are strong Destruction specific single target choices currently, with Crashing Chaos being more cooldown focused versus Chaotic Inferno offering a bit more consistent damage that is not tied to your Summon Infernal cooldown. Crashing Chaos did receive a 30% nerf last week, bringing the 2 traits much closer together in sims than previously. For Mythic Plus, however, your best bet will be to run a set consisting of stat-based procs such as Archive of the Titans or Champion of Azeroth, to name a few, in addition to a rolling Havoc piece. Havoc is used a great deal on both Trash and at times boss encounters in Mythic Plus, which makes rolling Havoc a very strong choice. The stat-based Azerite traits are pretty strong for Destruction even in single target sims, so you really do not lose much at all running a set consisting of 2 stat-based traits and 1 rolling Havoc piece. It's also worth mentioning that it's very important to have at least 1 Archive of the Titans or Laser Matrix Azerite piece equipped inside Uldir, as doing so grants you the re-origination rate buff. Each stat grants you 75 of your main secondary stat, and you receive 1 stack each week after killing 3 bosses inside Uldir with a max of 10 stacks. It's a large DPS game while also acting as a nerf to content over the course of the tier. I'll have a link to the Blood Mallet Destruction Azerite sims in the description below. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this gave you all a better understanding of the current state of Destruction and how it fares in both Mythic Plus and Uldir. With the tuning that both Destruction and Affliction have received over the last few weeks, they're a good bit closer in sims than they were at the start of BFA, but at this point Affliction is still a bit ahead in most scenarios. If you're interested in acquiring any of the weak ores you've seen here, I'll have a link to my Discord and my Twitch in the description below where you can find them all. If you guys want to see more WoW content and help support the channel, hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons as your support really helps. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see y'all in Azeroth. Peace.